They're lying and they're spinning tall tales. And again, they're degrading themselves in ways that they would not allow their children to degrade themselves.
Right.
If, like, for instance, here's Republican Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana saying something about House Speaker Nancy Pelosi at a rally last night.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi is trying to impeach him. I don't mean any disrespect, but it must suck to be that dumb.
Yeah, he actually does mean disrespect, and he has degraded himself. And by the way, hey, Senator, guess what? No matter what you do the rest of your life, that's your moment when you die. Your bio, 30, 40 years from now, whenever it is, that's your moment. Congratulations. You did it for a man who committed crimes. You did it for a man who may be driven out of office. You did it for a man who actually was willing to sell out the United States of America for some dirt on Joe Biden. You did it for a man who, again, has destroyed the conservative movement. Did it for a man that's run up national debt. Did it for a man that's undercut NATO. Did it for a man who actually does whatever Vladimir Putin wants him to do, whether it's getting a foothold in Russia, getting a foothold in the Middle East, Russia getting a foothold in the Middle East, whether it's getting a foothold in Ukraine, whether it's him running around saying to his aides that Ukraine's not really a real country. Who says that? Oh, wait, Vladimir Putin does. And you just said that about Nancy Pelosi. I guess I don't know. You know, maybe the part of Louisiana you grew up in is different than part of Northwest Florida I grew up in, but I don't know. In my neck of the woods, Senator, parents don't teach their sons to talk about women or men that way, but maybe you're comfortable with that. Whatever goes. And by the way, on top of that, what Republicans are doing with this whistleblower is staggering. Just a few years ago, they were running around talking about the importance. Mike Pence leading the charge about the importance of protecting whistleblowers. Now they're going to rallies in Kentucky, and Rand Paul, a United States Senator, is screaming that the whistleblower must be real. For what? Why? You know why? Because Donald Trump wants the whistleblower's name revealed. But why? Think about it. What we have learned since the whistleblower complaint is so much more devastating than even what the whistleblower put in that complaint. We know more now. So the whistleblower's identity, actually the whistleblower's charges have now become irrelevant because, as they may say in Northwest Florida and also in parts of Louisiana, they put meat on those bones. We know what it looks like, and it's worse than what the whistleblower even said it was, which means this is all just about trying to be punitive, just trying to punish a whistleblower, just trying to distract people who they think are too stupid to actually read the news or look at Google. And, you know,
or read the transcript.
That's not a transcript. Jim, you know, what's so fascinating is, and again, embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed for Kennedy. I'm so embarrassed, humiliated for Lindsey, a guy that I came in to Congress with, and I'm so humiliated for him. The thing is, this doesn't work politically. They think this works politically. But those people, they're just screaming at the church choir. I've said it before. Yeah. In 2018, the largest landslide loss in the history of elections for the House of Representatives. Virginia, completely, Republicans wiped out in Virginia in just a couple of years. You have a Democratic governor in Kentucky. I mean, you just go down the line. This isn't working for them, and yet they continue to degrade themselves in a way that make them more loathed in suburbs, more loathed with women. I wonder how Kennedy saying that Nancy sucks and it sucks to be stupid, I wonder how that plays with all women voters. It can't be good, can it, Jim?
Well, the thing is, like, all of this now is so predictable. Not to be cynical about it, but we now know what's going to happen in these public hearings. It's going to be proven irrefutably that there was a quid pro quo orchestrated by Giuliani and others at the direction, with the blessing of the President of the United States, to undermine Joe Biden, who at the time was #1 in the polls. That doesn't see, there's no mystery because we've already seen that. And there might be little pieces put into that puzzle, but we know that. But at the same time, you watch what you saw from Kennedy. You watch Lindsey Graham. We interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, and he was very clear on camera saying, listen, if there's a quid pro quo, that's problematic. I might change my mind. And now he's saying there's nothing. It's all BS. There's nothing that could change his mind. And when you talk to Republicans, you know how this play ends now. You talk to any of them privately, and they know there's going to be a quid pro quo proven, and they're not going to vote to boot him from office because of it. They're going to defend it. They're going to find some nuance to defend it. They're going to say it's too close to an election, and then they're going to trash any single person who comes out against Donald Trump, whether it's a whistleblower, whether it's a Republican donor, whether it's an always Trumper who just happened to turn on the president. It's all now so knowable, mainly because they're just all in with him. They've always been all in on him. I've never understood this coverage that I keep seeing where people are like, this is different. Republicans are going to change. Nothing has changed in 3.5 years. There's not been a single moment where people rise up and say, you know what, I'm going to do what I actually think I should do. They're going to do what they think is in their political interest. Listen, even Mitt Romney, who's been the harshest, I would not be surprised if he does not vote, with the rest of Republicans when it comes to that trial, because and he's probably the harshest critic of all.
So Susan Del Percio, obviously, as Lindsey Graham is embarrassing himself. He's offering conspiracy theories about Gordon Sondland colluding with Democrats. He also said again yesterday, I will not read the transcripts. He's the chair of the Judiciary Committee. Yeah. He will not read this. He will not, in other words, I will not consider any evidence. I've made up my mind. By the way, he demanded the transcripts a week ago. Now he's not going to read them. Here's why they're throwing out conspiracy theories. From Bill Taylor's testimony, the transcript released yesterday. That was my clear understanding. Security assistance money would not come until the president of Ukraine committed to pursue the investigation. That is a quid pro quo. That's what Republicans don't want to talk about.
They don't, and I'm kind of surprised that Democrats have not changed the narrative a little bit. Forget this quid pro quo. It is about Donald Trump using his office to benefit himself for the 2020 election. He is meddling in the election, and he is using government resources to get dirt on his opponent. Forget quid pro quo. Go after meddling in the 2020 election and using government resources for personal gain. That's something the public will be able to tack onto, and it's not quid pro quo. It's not something that the Republicans can just respond with, and people going, all right, whatever that may be. I think that the American public, if they during the public hearings hear that argument being laid out, it'll be much more effective. And again, we cannot stress enough that Lindsey Graham is the chair of the Judiciary Committee. I don't know how he can still have that post.
He also said yesterday the Mueller report to him was the final word on all things Trump. The Mueller report didn't consider this new question on Ukraine.
Right, yeah,
Obviously, it happened before that. One other note, Joe and Mika, just to sprinkle in here, Bill Taylor's testimony revealed something else, that when he thought something suspicious was up with the withholding of the money, he went to the NSC to say, hey, guys, what's going on? Said he could not get a meeting with the NSC. This is the leading diplomat to Ukraine, because the NSC was occupied with the president's idea of purchasing Greenland. That's what they were doing,
Fantastic.
And he couldn't get a meeting.
Look, you have to laugh because otherwise we would cry. But you know what? The question hanging over this whole presidency was best put by Elijah Cummings at the end of the day during the Michael Cohen hearings on Capitol Hill, when he asked everybody and him at the end of the day, when you're dancing with the angels, what did you do to save our democracy? For Senator Graham and Senator Kennedy, we can mark them down in the category of absolutely nothing. And in fact, they behaved badly.
I was going to say,
they behaved so badly and acted against their own core values. We know these men. And they went against their own core values for a wannabe dictator. Yeah. It's incredible at this point.
Them doing nothing actually would have been
nothing would have been better
than them humiliating themselves. But you know, everybody goes around talking about quid pro quid pro quo. Let's just make this simple. What we're talking about is the President of the United States twisting and perverting U.S. foreign policy to get dirt on a domestic political rival. Russia invaded Ukraine. It is Vladimir Putin's #1 goal to take over Ukraine, because when he does that, suddenly Russia is no longer Russia anymore. It's the Soviet Union again. The man that called the collapse of Soviet communism, by the way, a scourge that killed over 30 million of its own people, he called that the greatest geopolitical tragedy of the 20th century. He knows, and Donald Trump knows, if Ukraine becomes part of Russia again, it is no longer Russia. It's once again the Soviet Union. Donald Trump knows that, and that's why Donald Trump has been telling his aides, well, Ukraine's not even a real country. Yeah. It's really part of Russia. He is reading Vladimir Putin's talking points there. He is reading Vladimir Putin's talking points in the Middle East. He was reading Vladimir Putin's talking points in December of 2015 when he came on our show and said that the United States was every bit as morally repugnant as Russia was, that we killed a lot of people too. He is reading directly from there. And your statement, you quoted Lindsey saying that the Mueller report was the end-all, tell-all for all things Trump. Donald Trump made this call right after Mueller's testimony.
That's right.
So that would be like saying a shoplifting case like that closed was, well, you know what? That was a be-all, end-all. I don't forget about the murder that happened the next day. We got the report on this guy from the shoplifting case. It's just, again, it's idiocy. And it's a shocking he is still the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. It shows that the Republican Party is so rotted to the core, and that it keeps getting worse every day. We keep convincing ourselves they can't degrade themselves anymore. They prove us wrong every day, and there are always consequences. And there will be terrible consequences for the Republican Party over the next 5 years. Terrible consequences.
As Jim VandeHei said, all these senators have hopped on the bus now with President Trump. There's no getting off. They've cast their lot with him. Lindsey Graham, as chair of the Judiciary Committee, says he will not consider the evidence in this Ukraine case, all these transcripts that he previously demanded. We're going to talk a lot more about this. Still ahead on Morning Joe. So far, critics of Elizabeth Warren have not been able to get much to stick, but that could be changing a bit. We'll run through some of that just ahead.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.